Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. So today we're diving into something that's been kind of blowing up online lately. If you follow space news at all, you've probably seen this viral YouTube video going around with a pretty wild claim. Basically, it's saying that the James Webb Space Telescope recently observed Pluto, and that this observation, well, quote, shouldn't be possible. Now, obviously, when somebody says that about literally the most advanced space observatory we've ever built, it definitely catches your attention, right? So we're going to unpack exactly what James Webb was looking at, what it actually found, and, why this headline is causing such a massive stir.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Shouldn't be possible. I mean, that is a seriously bold claim to make. Out in the astronomy world, sure, we're always pushing the boundaries of what's possible, but finding something that literally breaks the laws of physics? That almost never happens. The channel that posted this, they're called Proof. They're definitely leaning hard into that sense of impossibility just to hook viewers. It's like they're tapping into the whole mystery of deep space to make us second guess what James Webb can actually do. But is there actually any truth to the idea that Webb shouldn't be able to look at our favorite dwarf planet?
Just to give you an idea of how well this narrative worked, look at this number. 746,483. That's how many views the single video racked up in just 2 days. Almost 750,000 people stopped scrolling because they were totally captivated by this idea that NASA's flagship telescope did the impossible. It honestly just shows how incredibly fast space hype spreads online. I mean, you take the ultimate underdog story, Pluto, and you mix it with the cutting-edge tech of the James Webb, and boom, instant virality. But as we all know, going viral doesn't exactly mean it's factually accurate. So our goal for this explainer is super straightforward. We're going to strip away all that internet clickbait, peel back the exaggeration, and look at the actual factual science behind this observation. Because honestly, the truth here is way more fascinating than the made-up fiction. We really don't need fake mysteries to be blown away by space. We just need to look at the data.
All right, Section 1, the impossible headline. And that brings us to Section 2, New Horizons versus Webb. Now, to really get why there's so much hype around Webb, we actually need to rewind a bit and look at our first real close encounter with Pluto. Context is absolutely everything here. Back in 2015, the New Horizons probe literally flew right past Pluto. It gave us those stunning, close-up, visible light photos, the ones with the massive heart-shaped glacier. That was a physical visit. But when you contrast that with the James Webb Space Telescope, Webb isn't flying anywhere near Pluto. It's observing it from billions of kilometers away. And instead of using visible light, Webb uses its incredibly powerful infrared instruments to look at it with just unprecedented sensitivity. It's kind of like the difference between taking a super high-definition photo of someone's face versus using an X-ray to see right through them from across the room.
Moving right along to Section 3, the infrared advantage.
So you might be wondering, how does a telescope parked relatively close to Earth observe Pluto better than a probe that literally flew right past it? Well, it all comes down to infrared. Webb isn't just snapping another pretty picture. It's actually reading the chemical fingerprints of the dwarf planet. While New Horizons showed us what Pluto looks like to human eyes, Webb's infrared instruments are detecting temperature, chemical composition, and all these tiny details that are completely invisible to ordinary telescopes. It's not just looking at the surface, it's figuring out what that surface is actually made of and exactly how warm or cold those materials are.
And the huge takeaway here is that the James Webb Space Telescope was specifically designed to study these incredibly faint infrared targets all across our solar system and way beyond. So far from being impossible, looking at faint, distant, freezing cold objects is literally the exact thing Webb was built to do. Honestly, Pluto is precisely the kind of target engineers had in their heads when they spent decades designing those massive gold-coated mirrors.
Which takes us to Section 4. Decoding Pluto's icy surface.
Okay, so we've talked about the tech. Let's move to the actual chemical secrets Webb is uncovering on Pluto's frozen surface, because the data coming back is giving astronomers a totally new perspective on this world. Webb is meticulously analyzing 3 specific things here. First, Pluto's incredibly thin nitrogen atmosphere. Second, the methane ice on its surface. And third, the carbon monoxide ice. Webb actually lets scientists observe how these specific ices behave in the extreme, mind-numbing cold of the outer solar system. And because Webb is just so insanely sensitive, researchers can map out exactly where these ices are and how they interact in a way that just straight up wasn't possible before.
And this feeds into one of the most fascinating ongoing mysteries we have about Pluto, how its thin nitrogen atmosphere is actually changing over time. See, Pluto has a highly elliptical orbit, which just means sometimes it's relatively close to the sun and other times it's much, much further away. So as it moves, the dwarf planet is constantly evolving.
The big question is, does the atmosphere freeze and basically collapse onto the surface like snow when it moves away from the sun? Or does it sublimate and puff back up when it gets closer? These new infrared observations from James Webb are absolutely critical for scientists trying to track how this atmosphere shifts and changes billions of kilometers away.
All right, Section 5, the Kuiper Belt context.
Now, it's super easy to just look at Pluto in total isolation. But to really grasp why these observations matter so much, we have to zoom out. Pluto isn't just sitting out there all alone. It's part of a massive, distant region of space called the Kuiper Belt. By observing Pluto in this incredible infrared detail, scientists are essentially setting up a benchmark. They can use all this Pluto data to understand and compare it to other strange, icy worlds floating around out there in the dark. Pluto acts as our most famous, best-studied reference point. If we can deeply understand how the methane and carbon monoxide ice act on Pluto, we can apply all of that knowledge to dozens of other distant dwarf planets that Webb is going to look at in the future.
And that brings us perfectly to this awesome quote, pulled directly from the source material we're looking at today. Quote, "There is nothing impossible about James Webb observing Pluto." End quote. Honestly, this is the ultimate myth-busting statement right here. It just completely dismantles that viral headline. The telescope is doing exactly what it was designed and programmed to do. It isn't breaking the laws of physics at all. It's just executing some truly flawless, brilliant engineering.
So the crucial point to remember here is the contrast. Sensational internet headlines rely on making up fake mysteries, claiming something shouldn't be possible, just to bait you into clicking. But authentic scientific breakthroughs, those are about the mind-blowing level of detail Webb can actually detect. What makes this story so amazing isn't the completely fake mystery of Webb simply seeing Pluto, but the very real fact that it can map out the chemical makeup of a tiny, freezing rock at the very edge of our planetary neighborhood. The real science is just infinitely more rewarding than the clickbait.
To wrap up our explainer today, I actually want to leave you with a really provocative question that the source video itself threw out to its viewers. When you look at all this incredible complexity, the changing atmosphere, the intricate surface ices, should Pluto still be considered the 9th planet? I mean, it's a debate that has been raging for years now, and as James Webb reveals even more about the super dynamic, evolving icy world, that conversation is only going to get richer. So think about it and let that curiosity keep you exploring. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep looking up.